Now, the idea of Congress is that it is a representational body, so that it represents the United States population as a whole. In reality, that is not the case. So as you can see, Congress is less diverse than the population of the United States would suggest. However, this current Congress is the most diverse in history, taking the record from the last Congress, which was at the time the most diverse in history. The reason that you see 439 people represented in the House is that the House includes, on top of those 435 regular members, 4 non-voting representatives that represent Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. So it's counting them as well, although, again, they don't get to vote. They just kind of stand there and sometimes give speeches. The generational breakdown as well, Congress tends to be much older than the general population. So baby boomers taking up a much greater proportion of Congress than they do of society. Millennials, though, slowly an uptick in the amount of millennials in Congress. So this is a graphic from the 116th Congress, which at the time had the most women ever represented in Congress. Today's Congress, which is the 117th Congress, I believe has the same amount, but I could be wrong. I didn't get a chance to replace this, which I had to do since November with the rest of them. Congress is also vastly wealthier than the average American. So members of Congress tend to be much, 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 much wealthier than the people that they represent. And there are a multitude of reasons for that. The biggest one is that it's very expensive to run for Congress, as we will explore in our elections unit. So we find that people who have the means are the ones that tend to run for Congress, and people without means, which is most Americans, don't tend to find their way to Congress, although it is very, very, very slowly changing. These are a couple ways, and if you want to pause this video and check out this graphic, it's a cool way of representing the ways in which Congress is not reflective of the American public, but what it would look like if it was reflective of the American public. The biggest difference you'll see here are in that there are few independents who make it to Congress, despite a pretty large portion of the electorate identifying as neither Democrat nor Republican. Also, something that is rarely brought up, but if Congress was proportional to society, at least half of it would be women, right? Whereas that's never been even close to the case. In fact, the gender breakdown right now is Congress is about 23% female, or at least 116th Congress was, and I'm pretty sure the 117th is somewhere around there. Maybe it's at 24%. Either way, it is the most women that have ever been in Congress, and it is nowhere near 50%, which begs an interesting question. Should there be a rule that it has to be 50%? That's not unreasonable. Multiple countries around the world have rules in their constitution that say that the legislature has to be at least 50% female, which is a conversation I'd love to explore when I get back. Now, the reasons for women being underrepresented in Congress have been studied time and time again. The reasons that were given in the AP textbook I put in here because I thought they were interesting. It claims that fewer women are running for office, which was true 10 years ago. It is not true anymore. The reasons they gave were the necessities of childcare and that women were more risk averse, which I don't think they have any reason to say. I'm kind of curious why they even bothered to put that in the American textbook. And there's also a bias against women. I think that we saw very clearly in the last 2 presidential elections. If you want to pause the video and take a look at this graphic as well, it's pretty interesting. I won't bother to take too much time to explain it because you've already heard enough of my voice today.